Every once in a while when you're browsing through games, you may come across one that immediately catches your eye. And that was the case here with Daydreamer Awakened Edition. It has a very different and unique art style, and once I saw that it was kind of an action platform shooter, I wanted to give it a shot. But does this unique looking shooter translate to a great purchase, or is it just a game that looks interesting, but is better to be left alone? The first thing you'll probably notice about Daydreamer is its art style. It has kind of a claymation look to it, similar to maybe Oddworld or the life simulator game Creatures. For whatever reason, it's so different looking, but I actually really like it. The gameplay is a fast-paced action platformer that actually reminded me a lot of ways of classic Treasure-developed games like Mischief Makers or Gunstar Heroes. You'll be blasting your way through 14 different levels featuring some of the most grotesque looking monsters and creatures and bosses I've seen in quite a while. At your disposal, you'll have jumping, double jumping, flying kicks, melee attacks, and gunplay, being able to hold 4 different guns at one time. In fact, you could hold multiple of the same gun if you really wanted to. Each gun has its own set of ammo, and once you use it, you'll have to wait a little bit for it to slowly replenish. The longer you wait, the more it will fill up, and during that period of time when you're low on ammo, you'll have to switch to one of your other guns by using triangle in order to pick a weapon that will be useful to you at that moment, or just desperation depending upon what kind of action you're currently in. You'll also have a few other tricks up your sleeves, such as being able to dash in the air, which will become essential for not only avoiding enemies and enemy attacks, but also being able to get over certain platforming obstacles. You'll have a shield that will allow you, of course, to take a few free hits and will then regenerate over time, and the same goes for a time slowdown feature, which will, of course, bring things down, slow them down for a little bit, so you can get some more distance between you and a boss, or better figure out what your next step is going to be in a particular battle. Along the way, you're going to of course find little health pickups as well as Psi, which basically works as the game's money system. You can go to the various shops that you will find throughout the various levels and be able to buy some instant health or ammo refills. You can use these at any point using the touchpad. But besides spending your money just at the shop, you can also use it for your animal pet summons that you can get. But each one will give you a different power-up or different advantage, such as the swarm of birds that will just massively attack things in their way, or the very useful and the one I use the most, the turtle, which will slowly heal you over time, but it ends up costing you your Psi points in order to use your summons. Besides just the shops though, you can also come across hotels. Inside you'll find a bed that you can rest on, which will not only checkpoint you, but also replenish all of your health. As well as there's sometimes some extra bonus stuff in there for you to grab before heading back out into the main level. The game story, which honestly I don't even have a full grasp on after playing through the game, as it is just pretty far out there, and just overall psychedelic is the best way to kind of put everything, with just the look of the game and the way it's presented, and of course even the soundtrack adds into that kind of feel. Basically, Earth had been taken over by aliens, and you were put into an eternal sleep, and now you're awake in order to find the Gatekeeper is what you're trying to do, and you have to fight all these various bosses in all these different areas in order to eventually get to the Gatekeeper. That's a basic summarization of it, because there's just a lot of weirdness going on. A lot of the levels in the game have an industrial feel to them, which is just okay, but there is a couple of other levels that step into a more green-filled or interesting look, like the mushroom platform-filled level, or the very happy grassy plain area with big smiling happy clouds and a giant killer rabbit as its boss. With the overall graphical styling and look to some of these levels, the soundtrack ends up playing in perfectly, and I really love the music in the game. It was actually composed by Mega Drive, who is one of the many composers and DJs that contributed music to the Hotline Miami 2 soundtrack. The game also features multiple different difficulties, and even like an extreme difficulty where it's 1 life, and if you die, the game is over. And this is actually the only mode where you can actually record your progress and put it up on the leaderboard to see where you stack amongst other gamers. Even on the normal setting, this game presented me with a couple of big challenges here and there, and upping that difficulty higher up will definitely put your gaming skills to the test. If you like challenging 2D bosses with a lot of gunplay involved, especially if you're someone who enjoyed stuff like Gunstar Heroes, I think there's a lot to actually like here. Playing through the game on normal took me around 3.5 to 4 hours in order to complete it. If you are a veteran of hardcore games like this, you may want to bump that difficulty up from the very beginning, or at least attempt it, and then bring down the difficulty as you go, because you can actually lower it during the course of your gameplay. While I had a lot of fun, there are a few minor things here and there with the game that weren't perfect. One of the biggest ones for me was the dive kick. When you jump into the air, if you're holding left or right on the D-pad or joystick and press melee attack, you'll dive forward, which is pretty effective. You can actually go through a lot of enemies and do some decent damage, but when you're doing some intense platforming that the game has, especially in one level in particular, I ended up missing my platforms I was trying to jump to and ended up flying off into the abyss or giant pits below. This only really happened during that one level, as most of the other levels in the game aren't nearly as platform heavy as that one. During the course of my gameplay, I didn't really run into any slowdown, crashing, or glitching of any kind. Daydreamer Awakened Edition is available for $9.99 on the PlayStation Network, and with everything said, I'm going to be giving the game a 7 out of 10. If you like a more old school or 2D action platformer with some difficult, challenging, and interesting bosses, this is definitely a game you want to check out. I really ended up having a lot of fun, a lot more than I expected after I first saw the initial trailer, and really was checking it out out of pure curiosity, but I'm really glad that I did. But anyway guys, that's going to wrap up this review. I'd like to thank you for watching, and of course, I hope you enjoyed.